Commissioner Alford will lead us in the pledge, and Commissioner Winters will lead us in the blessing. If you would, please stand.
We pray. Father, we thank you for Jesus. Voice. Thank you. Freedom.
Amen. Thank you. All right, welcome everybody. Those who have the agenda, we're going to make a few little changes. We're going to swap item 4 and 3. We'll get back to the mayor's report here in a second. We'll get to the budget amendments. Also on item 6, other business, we're going to take up a recommendation on the consolidation for commissary. So if you'll put that on there. See, Sheriff Lawson, Commissioner Lefford, welcome. With that, we'll go to the budget amendments. We got paper budget amendments today. First budget amendment, excuse me. Misdemeanor probations, a decrease in revenue and increase in expenses of $3,000 even. And it's basically going from account 34520 over to 53910. This money is to pay request portion of salary of employee who helped drug fund. Do I have a motion to accept it? This is the one that's been rolled like twice already.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next budget amendment. Probations, decrease in revenue from 42280, increase in expenses in 53910. Make up the difference from reserve account to the amount decided in the last finance meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Misdemeanor probations, decrease in expenses and increase in expenses from his same account 53910, $5,000. Do we have a motion to accept the? We have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. That concludes that part over there. Next budget amendment is from Director Vicky Town. Decrease in expenses out of her account 53500, 707, 709 data processing in the same account of $4,022.10. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Mason. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next budget amendments from Recreation, $1,137.62. He's increasing revenue and increasing expenses, so it's money coming in. This is from the tournament. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Another from Recreation, $25,000. This is an auditing thing, right, Renee? Maintenance. I chatted with Andy the other day briefly on this. This is the auditors. It's just, when we get to meeting with the auditors, we can ask them more why they're doing this. But basically, they want it from the 335 maintenance that he's using this money for into 599. We've seen this before with the auditors. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Excuse me. Next budget amendment, Deanna Hewitt. This is community corrections, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. $2,000. She's increasing expenses. She's increasing expenses and decreasing expenses, moving from the same account into two different lines. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Winters. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Southeast Tennessee Community Corrections, $34,493.11. He's decreasing the expenses from those respective lines, increasing expenses into 503. So say the money stays in the same account. I have a motion from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Slater. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next budget amendment from the fire department. Excuse me. So we're in a different fund, 121. Insurance recovery, $5,259.69, and it's going into 338. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. There you see the supporting documentation, the check, and the letter. It has the VIN number and all that good stuff on there. Next budget amendments from EMS. $2,989 even, increase in revenue and increase in expenses, so the money's coming in. You have a motion to accept the amendment from Commissioner Winters. I have a second from Commissioner Mason. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And there you have the supporting documentation, the check, and the letter from the insurance company. And is this the beginning of services rendered?
Yes. The rest of them are.
All right. The rest of them are services rendered. We'll take those up in a package with one motion. Do I have a motion to accept the following amendments as a package? I have a motion from Commissioner Slater. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. That concludes the budget amendments. Going back to our agenda. Going back up to the mayor. Mayor Davis, you are recognized.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everyone. First of all, credit card report, fire department, did not use it, no charges. Assessor used 11 times, one missing receipt, but a memo was attached. Sheriff's department used it twice, all good. The mayor used it twice, all good. EMA used it twice, once was locally, a memo attached as to why. Any questions?
Any questions from the mayor on the credit card report? Seeing none, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, the other thing is take me a little longer, so bear with me. Talking about ambulance service, ambulance department. I'm hesitantly to say that I am proud at this point to say that we're as close to being fully staffed as we've been in a long, long time. But I hesitate to say that because sure as I do, things will change overnight. But we have come a long way, and we're just about there. We still have a lot of people on leave of various kinds, and then, like everyone else right now, a lot of people out sick. So, but all in all, staffing is the best it's been in a long time, and that's mainly because we made adjustments within the budget about a year ago to work on salaries. The problem we are having now is trucks on the road. At one time, we had trucks and staffing issues to staff those trucks, and now that staffing is better, we're having a lot of issues with truck breakdowns, and mainly delivery of new ones. It's not an election time, but if it were, someone would say that's because of lack of planning. No, it's not. Last year's budget, there was 3 ambulances budgeted, and to date, 18 months later, only 1 has been received. We still are waiting on a van transport ambulance. Last we heard was January of 23, and we're still waiting on an international re-chassis, and the last we heard is January of 23. And by the way, those have gone up tremendously during that wait period. And this year's budget, we also planned ahead with an entire new ambulance. In this year's budget, 6 months into the budget, they tell us that it probably will be January of 24. And oh, by the way, we can't lock in the price. So delivery and prices are a problem. So we have gone elsewhere to look at ambulances, and what I have for you today is, I think, a solution. Some may say it's going backwards, but not necessarily, because it could be argued that what we've been doing wasn't necessarily a step forward when we went to internationals. But anyway, there are still Chevrolets and Fords on the road. the older ones before we went to the internationals. What we are asking you to approve now is going back to those. The bottom line is I can get 2 of those at a really good price with a delivery of approximately January 23. They're supposed to be finished up in December at the end of this year, but they said to be safe, we want to say January. And I can get, this company had put several, had pre-ordered them, you might say, a long time ago during the COVID time, and so they're able to have them sooner than some companies can. So I can get 2 of the Chevrolet 3500s at a pretty good price and have a delivery of January. Where we're at on ambulances today, gosh, without looking on my phone, I can't give you the numbers, but I know we have 3 that are down. Not only are we not getting deliveries of the new ones like we should be getting, we also have 3 that are down. 2 of them, I would call them dead. I'm tired of spending money on them. So we need ambulances bad. This can be paid with ARP money. Actually, one was already budgeted for ARP, the one that's on order this year. I'm going to be coming to you next week with a revised, updated plan for you to approve to submit for ARP funding. And this would be included in that plan. We can get 2 for $328,000. That's $164,000 apiece. And just for you to compare, that's less. And I hope they're not watching. I hesitate to talk prices publicly, but that's less than we're paying for one of those silly transport vans that we didn't want to start with, but now we've got 2 and we'll have a 3rd one before long. But we can go back to a regular ambulance, have a January delivery. If we'll buy 2 of them, that's how many they have that are supposed to be finished. We can get both of them for $328, which is $164 and some odd dollars each. But I can't wait for a budget amendment. I can't wait 2 weeks for the next commission meeting. So I'm asking for a thumbs up from the finance committee. If I get that thumbs up, I will tell them to go ahead, put our name on them, and then next week that'll be part of the revised plan, and then also we'll come back with the budget amendments once that plan's adopted too in the future. So what I'm asking you today, I know it's not on the agenda, but what I'm asking you today is to go along with us purchasing these two with ARP money and revising that plan to include 2 more ambulances. Questions?
Yeah, any questions for the mayor on his proposal? Commissioner Winters.
I'm with you. I think it's a good plan. The question I have is about repairs. I think the question with the Chevys and the Fords were the other product was the repairs of those. So are we capable of repairing those, and is that a problem at all?
The new ones, you're talking about
Yeah,
the new ones?
yeah.
Of course, the good thing is there'll be a good warranty
Yeah.
come with them. I don't remember offhand how much, but a new car warranty, you might say. Comparing to what we switched, we had Chevrolets, we've had Fords, we've had Internationals. And you know, you ever talk to people that work on cars? If they're a Ford man, they say Ford's the best. If they're a Chevrolet man, they say Chevrolet's the best. I don't believe any of them. We've also had problems with the newer Internationals, probably just as much as we had with the former ones. We talked to Sevier County, I believe it is, that has been buying new ones like I'm proposing here, and they love them. They said that they're less maintenance than they've had. They're gas, by the way. They're less trouble than the diesel, so they give them a good mark. Of course, when we went to Internationals, we found people that gave them a good mark too, so take that for what it's worth. But yeah, they would have the warranty, so first of all, that would be taken care of. And if you're a Chevrolet promoter, you would say they're easier to work on. I'm not saying that. I don't know. But they are what we've had in the past. The boxes, my understanding, is still be interchangeable, so when we go to re-chassis one, we can still get a new truck, put the box back on it, and refurbish it like we've done a lot of times. So all of those things would work. I just think I'm not doing it for the dollar reason, but it is a much better price. The Internationals have gone way up. Now, they're ordered, so we're stuck with those that are ordered, but these are better price. And again, the van thing from last year to this year is almost doubled in price. We're stuck with one more of those, but hopefully we stop at 3 because that is not what we want on the street. And they're running emergencies. If you have them, they're going to run emergencies. But they're mainly for the transport. But if we get caught up on everything else and get totally fully staffed, then hopefully those will be transports and you won't see them running. But we're comfortable, and this is a recommendation from Mike Guerin at the ambulance also, that we go with these. They're Chevrolet 3500s is what they are. That's like a F-150 or an F-350 Chevrolet's 3500. So
And
is
you're
that,
comfortable with repair locally, right? We do
yeah,
repair locally.
they should be. Again, if you talk to a Ford guy, he'll say otherwise, but,
Mr. Alford.
well, I think it's, probably, I'm not gonna call on you to come up here, but, I guess you would say it's the same heavy duty as the previous ones, but updated for sure, because we haven't bought a Chevrolet one in several years, so a lot different. But I think they were 3500s also, and then we've also gotten the Fords of this same model too, just alike except one's Ford, one's Chevrolet. Um, we're comfortable with it. The company assures us they will be just as good. We went to the International because I always felt like the truck wasn't big enough for the box. Now, believe it or not, there's some argument out there that maybe the truck's too big for the box. Who knows? You'll find all different kinds out there. But again, in talking to Sevier County, they're happy with them. Hamilton County's got the internationals. That's what we went to. We'll still have international coming. There's an international coming hopefully in January or February or sometime in the next 10 years. There's also an international on order for 24. So there'll still be internationals coming, but we think this would be a good replacement. The two that are dead, one of them was bought used a few years ago, and it's been nothing. We've spent more on that. And again, I hate to say that publicly because we're going to be putting those two out for sale. But they have become lemons over time. So, yes, we are. Mike is. We're comfortable with moving forward. We desperately need new ones, and really not because it's the only choice. And don't tell anyone from the company, but we need ambulances bad, and this company has promised to have them to us in January.
The two that's dead, are these the old Chevrolets?
Yeah, well, I believe they are. I can't swear to that. They're not the internationals. Whether Chevrolet or Ford, I'm not sure.
But they're two of the older ones
Mhm.
that's died, and then the new international.
We bought one time and put a new box, or put a box on it, and we bought somebody else's problem. It's the only time I know of ever buying a used one, but we did one time, and it's when we needed one, and the wrecked insurance wouldn't pay for a new one, so we bought a used one with it, and in hindsight, that's 2020, it was not a good decision.
You were talking to these other cities about what they're using and so forth. Did y'all bring up any subjects as to why we have so many maintenance problems, or is it a reason they don't, or are they just having the same problems we have?
Well, my
It
understanding.
looks like we have a lot of maintenance problems on our ambulances for some reason.
Yeah, and it's hard to compare because the difference in the usage, but Hamilton County is having issues. I can't say if they're comparable with us. At the time, they convinced us that that was the way to go. Sevier County says they're having a lot less issues with this vehicle. It's a little more simple, I guess you would say, and not quite so large. I don't know the answer to that, Commissioner Alford.
Any other questions? Mayor, real quick, so this will increase our fleet by 2 than what we were going for.
It won't it will replace 2 that's dead in the backyard, so to speak.
So the 2 that are gonna be 86.
And we will try to get them ready and put them up for sale on Gov Deals. And then if and when we get those other 2, because we got one in the shop right now, so that's 3, we would actually be one up. But
One
yeah.
up, okay, so.
But in
Going
the
up 2.
in the good old days, we always had one on reserve.
Mhm.
Right now, we don't have that.
All right, so in essence, when it's all said and done, we're gonna increase our fleet by 1. The other thing is, just if the internationals is not the direction, for whatever reason, after learning lessons, why are we sticking with these orders that, can we get out of them and go with these kind that we,
Well, we definitely can't get out of the ones that are just about to be delivered.
no,
The other one,
the ones.
I thought we
they
would
said
look.
January 24, and they can't commit to a price, then we shouldn't have to commit to buying it.
Right, we probably could, to answer your question, get out. I thought we would get these and see how much we really like them, and then without sending them that message, we could go forward. But again, then it becomes a question, okay, if we would rather have one of these, what would the price be and compared, and what would the delivery compared? And you might get back to a lot of similarities at that point, but again, we still have the choice of the kind, you're right. But I
Okay,
thought we would do these for a little while before we made that decision.
understood. So, 364,000, you need this.
328,952 to be exact.
What did I say, 360?
I'll have resolutions for you, don't worry. If
Oh.
you all would give a thumbs up, and I'll give you a resolution to get
Yeah.
approved
And
tonight.
it's gonna come out of,
It'll come out of ARP bucket,
all right,
the COVID bucket, and I will have that revised plan for you next week so we can get that approved and send in as our revised plan also. Now, in that revised plan, in case some of you are wondering, it's gonna include other things that some of you have been talking about wanting. It will move money from a bucket to a different bucket and fund some things, such as the Steve Lawson roof, the Steve Lawson HVAC units, those things, lighting, I keep hearing that from some people. Those things will be in that revised plan next week for your consideration. We've got to update and revise the plan anyway, and so we're going ahead and putting those things in there. And it will also have revised figures of what we know the latest on broadband, as well as water. And I see you got a couple more water things here today, but the water bucket will be left wide open to continue doing what you're talking about here today. So the revised plan is very important, and it'll give us a lot of leeway on how we move forward.
all right. Are you willing, are able to talk about the other parts that you wanna do? As far as the roof on Stephen Lawson's? Or is that something you wanna
Well,
wait till next week?
there will be lots of things in there for him. There will be the money for this other two ambulances, the roofs, the HVAC. I'm hoping, he's gonna have delivery issues and prices issues too, but I'm hoping to rather, instead of doing a 3-year lease, which isn't anything but a 3-year loan with interest, I'm hoping to do his next wave of cars through ARP also. Just outright buy them and purchase them, but then he'll have a long wait time probably also. But once that plan is changed next week, he's already getting estimates on HVAC and roofing. And if that plan is approved next week, we've already got the estimate on the lighting. And so then I'll say to Steve, okay, now go ahead and this will buy X number of cars. Go ahead and get the estimated cost and delivery date on those, which I doubt that he has yet, but it may push us back to the lease situation. I don't know if there's going to be a different scenario if it's a lease delivery versus a buyout. But anyway, that's the trouble with the vans. The vans go through the regular car market assembly. They're not going through as ambulances, and so that van has to be built just like all other cars are right now, and there's all kinds of delivery issues on those, even though the car lots seem to have a lot of cars, but there's a lot of delivery issues. We've got another department that's ordered, I don't remember what it was, a Tahoe or something like that, and it's been ordered for a long time. So
So Sheriff Lawson, you're getting estimates now for your roofing, the rest of your roofing. Good.
yeah, he's given estimates on the HVAC, and he's still working on the roofing estimates. But we have a ballpark figure that will be in the revised plan.
Is
So
that something you have to bid out, or is you already got who? It has to be bid out?
Trying to get ballpark price as to
Yeah.
what the roof would.
and the timing on this is,
Because the reason I would go there, Mayor, this is something we've been talking about for years. It was supposed to be a 5-phased kind of thing.
It was.
And we got two of them
Two of them are
down.
complete, and we got three.
Yeah.
We like three.
I'm all for that.
once the plan is approved to do in general terms, ballpark numbers that I'll be proposing next week on the 19th, if you approve that plan, then Steve will be told, okay, go back and actually bid the HVAC and the roofs and start the process on the cars
Right. And your lease on your cars was 3 years. That ends
next year.
next
Yeah,
year.
Yes.
So we'll
ends
kind of
this
be
last
ahead of the
year.
game then.
Well, by the time delivery, we may not be, but we'll at least start ahead of the game, yes.
All right. Oh, please, yeah,
Can
sure.
I follow up on staffing? You said you were pleased with staffing at this point with
EMS?
the EMS team, and also about the paramedics. Are we moving on with paramedics with Cleveland State? that
Yes,
action?
you know, they agreed to 2 scholarships per year.
Yeah.
Last year, we put 5 through. This year, there was only 2. Uh, but that continues. Now, that's gotta be updated. I'm glad you said that because I think you were one of the contacts with Cleveland State. Um, we have been billed for a, um, what do you call it, tuition, and everybody over there's changed. So we've not paid that bill. I've got to somehow nicely bring it to their attention that we have an agreement. You don't bill us for that tuition. Uh, but anyway, but that also, that agreement ends next year, so that we need to get that renewed. It's a great thing.
Yeah.
And also, when we renew it, we hope to, common sense tells you we can do this, but the contract don't actually say you can do it. It says you can do 2 paramedics a year. Okay, what if we don't have 2 paramedics, but we have 2 EMTs that want to become AEMTs? Well, we could do 4 AEMTs for the cost of 2 paramedics, which we want just about as bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that in there, so we hope to change it where it will allow that in writing when we renew next year also. It'll be up for renewal before the next year. It was a 2-year thing.
I need to meet the new president anyway, so there's one VP still there that worked with us.
Well, the
Ours.
one that was mainly our person isn't there, we understand, and of course, the new president.
Yeah.
If you're gonna meet soon, I suggest you take this
Yeah.
contract that I have on my desk
Yeah.
and explain it and discuss it with her and tell her that, hey, they have a second tuition sitting on the desk to be paid that should not be there, and I think it's just they don't know,
Yeah,
you know
I
what I'm
agree.
saying?
Yeah.
So, that, since you mentioned that, that's where we're at on that. And, what that has done, that, we have a couple that are interested in doing it next year, if we can get that contract renewed. But equally important, if we could send 4 AEMTs instead of 2 paramedics. Let's say there's 4 EMTs. Well, they got to be an AEMT before they can become a paramedic. So if we could send 4 and it be covered with that scholarship, that's much easier to get accomplished. You see what I'm saying? We could have done that this year, but we didn't have that ability. Any other questions? Bottom line is I need you to give me a thumbs up on the 2
Yeah,
ambulances.
we're gonna make a motion
and-
here in a second.
And I'll have a resolution for you tonight if it's agreeable. And that way I can tell the company, hey, put our name on them, get them delivered as soon as possible, and don't go up on the price. That's locked in. And then we'll look at doing more business with them next year, maybe instead of that other international. We'll wait and see on that.
Very good. Commissioner Alford, you wanna make a motion to? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You don't mind.
No, please.
How's, the price, single price on one of these new ones go compare with the, other we bought before?
Compared to the price before or the price now? For example,
They're international.
the
They're
international,
Chevy International.
well, the international that we have on order now, that's somewhat promised for January of '24, went from 195 to roughly 325. And by the way, we can't lock it in.
Oh, really?
So,
But
the
one
last
we got
one,
on order, what are we paying for it?
the one that, now you're making me remember a lot of numbers here. The van I very well remember. The first 2 we paid 85 for them.
85, yeah.
Now they're 160. And that's with a long delivery. The international that's coming in January, I think, don't hold me to it, is roughly 225. 195 was budgeted. Remember, I've already come to you with amendments to fix that, and that's locked in. But the one for January of '24 isn't even locked in, so we don't know. And more than likely, any other company is going to be that same way with them that far out. But these 2 now, that's just about close to being finished, they're willing to lock in and give us a delivery date.
And we're paying what for these Chevys?
The Chevys are 164.5 roughly each, which is about the same as that van is costing us this year. So don't tell the company, but we're getting a decent price compared to what these others have gone to. But it's sort of like insurance one time when I told you, but next year it'll be different. When I go to order those others from even this company, it probably won't be the same story. Let's take advantage of these 2 and be happy right now is what I'm
If we
saying.
don't get them in January, we get a discount, right? Just kidding.
I will try to have that in there, you're right.
All right, do I have a motion on what the mayor is proposing or asking? I'm sorry, Commissioner Slater, if you'll make your motion, please.
I make a motion that we allow the mayor to pursue the purchase of these 2 vehicles.
We have a motion from Commissioner Slater as presented, and we have a second from Commissioner Winters. We had a pretty good discussion before we had a motion, so, but is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. So I'll put this as a recommendation to the full commission tonight.
Thank you. And your recommendation will be to approve a resolution that I'll give you tonight.
Very
It'll be
good.
more formal tonight. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't normally bring something this costly to you without it being on the agenda, but this is a special request, and I really appreciate it. And again, the updated plan that we will send in on ARP, I'll have for you next Monday, and I think you'll be happy with that too.
All right.
Thank you.
So, once all this is done and approved, obviously, we're gonna be hitting some buckets on the ARP money, and then basically what the mayor is gonna ask for some, amendments and some changes. In the January, Finance Committee will review the, ARP buckets again, so we kinda know where we're at on, premium pay is done and affordable housing is done. There's no, but the others, sewer, water, broadband, and, COVID-19, just to know our new balances after all these transactions.
And this updated plan will tell you what's been completed, what's been approved, and what's left to be approved in the buckets.
Right,
So,
because we're gonna be hitting sewer, Commissioner Thompson's gonna be bringing the, septic proposal tonight, I believe. Very good. Anything else, Mayor?
I believe that's all I have. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Mayor. All right, we've done budget amendments, a report from the mayor. We're going to our agenda items. Item A, water project applications. Ms. Moultrie is going to give us an update. Ms. Moultrie, you're recognized.
For consideration, Rakestraw Road with a cost of $31,857 and Moore Circle Road at a cost of $38,700. Initially, as I reported last month, Cleveland Utilities agreed to fund these projects each at up to $12,500. Per your request, I asked Cleveland Utilities to consider sharing equally with the county the cost of these 2 projects. And I believe you have your hard copies of their response. It's their November 22 policy on water extension guidelines, which states that they will provide up to 50% of the project cost, up to $20,000 for extensions to residential properties. And this funding is based on availability of funds in the current fiscal budget year. Splitting the costs equally with Cleveland Utilities means the Rakestraw Road project, if approved, requires $15,937.50 from the county, and Moore Circle Road, if approved, requires $19,350 from the county.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Moultrie? Mayor, I believe that's what you asked for, was to get a 50-50, kind of like what we had for the COA utilities with the project that Commissioner Mason brought. So does this give you everything you need to proceed?
Yeah, and what we'll do, Adam, make sure you make note, we will add these 2 things. If you going to approve them tonight?
Yes.
We will add these to the bucket update also. You've got 2 Ocoee utilities, and now you'll have 2 Cleveland utilities in that water bucket, and that way you can see what the balance is unspent. We will be coming back with resolutions formalizing it like we did before, but you go ahead and approve them. We'll update the bucket, then we'll have the resolutions and eventually amendments also, putting them in lines to spend.
Very good.
So those things will come later.
So this is what we needed. Lori, if you'll remind me, I think it's worthwhile to put this letter from Cleveland Utilities in the minutes tonight.
Okay.
All right. Any questions on the water projects and Cleveland Utilities memo that they're going to go into 50-50 with us like COA Utilities did? Not seeing none. Moving on to the next item. Reserve account. We asked Lori to do some research for us, and I believe she has a report for us. Ms. Moultrie, you recognize.
Yes, last month I did, at the request of this group, contact the other 10th Judicial District counties to determine how they use their reserve fund 34520, which is earmarked for alcohol and drug treatment. Polk County uses their funds to pay Bradley County misdemeanor and probations to handle their probation program. McMinn County said until recently they could not find an appropriate use for the funds, but this year, in this year's budget, actually funded $5,000 to the Electronic Monitoring Indigent Fund. You may recall that came about a few years ago. And then lastly, Monroe County uses their funds to pay a third party to provide alcohol rehabilitation programs.
You know, the first year we didn't end up spending any, but I think it was budgeted in your all's line, yes.
Sure, I assume, because I was asked to look at this so that you all could come up with a policy and how to distribute those funds moving forward. Historically, we've given some funds to the adult drug court program as well as misdemeanor and probations.
Sorry, I don't have my mic on.
No, I don't know.
Our money is reserved every year at the end of the year. It goes into a reserve account. That's what statutorily we have to do. And right now, it is requested from the drug court grant and probations. That's the one that we have that they both want the same pot of money.
That's the ones they're fighting over.
That's the one that
Okay.
yes, that they asked for. At
Do
the
we
same
have any
time.
idea how much money's in there?
Well, there's no money left in it now. We get probably $30,000-$40,000. Sometimes we'll get 50. That goes into that specific one. It just depends. Now, we have taken $2,000 out of the revenue we've received this year, which is going to lower what I reserve at the end of the year. We just did that budget amendment to give Rich, $2,000. But we collect it during the year. And this is fines and stuff that comes through the courts, not just galas, but it comes through the courts. They put it into a revenue account. At the end of the year, I have to reserve it. And that's what we move out in September after I've closed the fiscal year. So it could have, 30,000, it could have 40,000. It just depends on what our collections is.
At the end of the year, you move it where in the reserve?
I move it out of the revenue into a reserve account, yes.
Whose reserve account? That same,
It's
those
that
same two?
34520.
Yeah,
That's the reserve account line that it goes into.
same one that these two are fighting over.
Yes.
Chairman, could we do something or discuss something, how we can solve that problem between these two, that we take that money and split it halfway, or do something with it other than them sitting and fighting over it all the time?
So that's what I was gonna say too. Why don't we just make the decision, we're gonna split that 50-50 between both of those groups, and then we don't have to worry about it anymore.
Is this built into both of their budgets?
This is not, none of the
Reserve and
reserve
it
accounts
stays
are
there.
built into the budgets. These are funds that are collected. We have multiple reserve accounts that come through. And these are statutorily required, either that or there are things like the archives budget that you all have set up to be reserved. We reserve them at the end of the year, and then they pull it out. They do not budget for this. That way it has nothing, it does not touch tax dollars. This is fines that come in through the courts.
How do they pull it out?
We do budget amendments after I close the year. I tell the
Each of them?
departments that have access to these accounts, here's how much money you have in this account. And I tell both of these, this is the money that's in this account. And then they're supposed to request what they need.
Which is
40
what Rich did today on one of them.
Yeah.
They have to be approved by you. You just approved one today, taking some of that money and spending it. Can I suggest one thing? Add to that, once we pay the ankle bracelet
That's where I'm going.
fee to the state, then the rest be split.
That's where I was going
That
on
way
that.
we'll
I
get
was-
some advantage of it
I
too.
was letting him finish his thought, but in September, a couple months ago, is usually when we see most of these reserve movements. There's amendments, so you need to go back and look at them. But, so during the budget request part, you'll see that some of these lines are zeroed out, whatever, and then September, they'll find out what their amount is, cause if you go by the average, you'll kind of have an idea, but to get the exact number, Renee will have that once she closes out the year on June 30th, and then they'll amend it out into their expense line to use for the rest of the year. That's usually what we do in September, like Donna and Dinah, guys right there. Mayor, that's where I was going. As far as a policy going forward, I think we finally have settled this 3-month drama. Kidding. But going forward in the 23-24 budget, Commissioner Slater, I like your idea, but I'm with Mayor. The first 10,000, because we're estimating we average 30, 33, 35. The first 10,000 go towards the ankle bracelet program that's currently being used, that we're using property tax for in our 599, I believe. So the first 10,000 will go towards ankle bracelets for our commitment for that. It's a 50-50 deal that the state changed on us a couple of years ago. Then after that, 50-50. So if it's 30,000, let's just use that as an example. The first 10,000 goes towards ankle bracelets. That'll bring it down to 20,000. Then 50-50, 10,000 to the adult drug court, and 10,000 to probation. And everybody knows where they're at on that. Does that sound like a plan, Mayor?
Yeah, you all approve that and that'd be great. Just keep in mind, at budget time, I'll have to you can't budget reserve money. So I'll have to budget those ankle bracelets so I can show the state that we do have it budgeted, and then you'll take care of it whenever you pull the money out and reserve it from a reserve to reimburse
Yeah,
your line.
the ankle bracelet will be zeroed out, but it's September when the amendments come through.
You'll
we'll
replace
replace
the money
the
then,
money,
because
yeah.
I've got to show it budgeted.
Yeah, but as far as a policy and everybody being on the same sheet of music, we'll all know, and that'll keep this stuff from happening going forward. Yeah. And I don't see us changing the $10,000 policy anytime soon. Right? So do we need to make a motion on that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So,
Just one more
Please.
question. In the past, what's happened to that money, say, last year or the year before?
Over the years, they've both requested a little bit here and a little bit there, and then when they both needed it, the first year, they decided, they did split it 50-50. Last year, I think drug court took the majority of it.
Guess whoever asked for it first?
It's your call. Just put them in there as the budget amendments come in, and you all vote on who gets it.
Commissioner Alford, you know where the blame on this. Kid. Well, I'm good. So, Commissioner Slater, would you like to make a motion on that, please?
So I'd like to make a motion that we take the reserve money after the year is closed, take the first $10,000 and pay the state for the ankle bracelet monitoring system, and the balance be split 50-50 between the drug court and probations.
I have a motion from Commissioner Slater, as she just stated. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussions, questions, or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. I'll make this, I guess, part of my committee and reports tonight. We can go ahead and get that in the books. All right, moving on to other business. Commissioner Alford, I believe you got some with Director Stone there with some auditing recommendations with the commissary.
Yes, I think it's called auditing that the commissary and the phone bills are
Sandra,
needed
you
to
might as
be
well come on up.
combined. Sandra, would you explain all that to the rest of the commissioners?
So currently, for workhouse and jail reasons and revenues, we have different things broke out, like the phone revenues are broke out between the jail and the workhouse. The commissary revenues are broke out between the jail and the workhouse, and then the state board bills are broke out between the jail and the workhouse. What we're asking for is to be able to combine our phone system and our commissary system. So we won't necessarily be able to break out those commissions. We can average what we've had so far, and that's about, I feel like we see about the same amount monthly. We will still be able to break out the revenues on the state inmate. So you'll get your biggest portion of the revenue still broken out so you can see what you're bringing in. We come to you with that because when we had our exit interview with the auditors, we ran into some accounting issues between these accounts. So when you have a jail account and a workhouse account, which are inmate accounts, you have two separate bank accounts. Well, you have to have interfaces to work with the systems, and sometimes the phone system interface and the commissary interface, that they don't work properly. And so we had some issues with the pulley that Trinity provided for us. He's no longer there. So we were getting some things fixed. But what we've ran into is since the workhouse has been open, we have been billed by Securus for inmate phone calls that should have been paid from the workhouse, but they were actually billed on the jail side. So over the course of 5, 6 years, or however long the workhouse has been open, we're just now catching the problem because the funds have been misplaced, so to speak. We ran into a negative balance in our jail account, but in a very an overage in our workhouse account. So we realized that the interfaces aren't working properly, and it's causing us issues. So if we could combine those two items, the phone system and the workhouse, it's going to work better for all of us.
Very good. So combining basically the commissary, which is the vendor is Trinity, and the telephone system, what do you say, Securus? So basically, when they send a revenue check, it'll go into one account over there instead of two. And that'll be in your sheriff's account. Yeah. So workhouse will finally kind of go away. Right. And the expenses, if there are any for those, will also come out of there because that's where all the revenue's coming from. Yeah. So basically, making it a little bit more abstract. But I don't remember ever asking, can you tell me how much workhouse commissary versus how much jail commissary brings in? It's as long as it's there. So I have no problem with this. I mean, very good. So we need the account and line. The account is 54110, right? That you're doing this?
So it's not really any monies that we're seeing, and it's not anything that Renee deals with.
Right.
Our just combining them is something that we have to do on our IT side and with the commissary. So you won't see anything but a less revenue in the workhouse.
Right. When we look at the expense report monthly, obviously we'll know what not to look for commissary with workhouse. Commissioner Alford.
Renee, is this going to create a problem for you in a sense
Well,
with the
that's what-
state, or are we going to have to build another new account for this?
As far as like the phone commissions and stuff, when you look at your revenue account, the revenue that comes in, it's all in one account.
Yeah.
I have a spreadsheet that that I turn into the auditors, that Cassandra has to break it down to tell me how much is the jails, how much is this, and that's that's where that divide comes in. You don't see it on the revenue when you get it.
Right.
We do it when we budget, and in the budget, when we budget, we'll say jail commissions and workhouse commissions. Whereas I would say when we do the budget for the next year, we would just put one line in. And I think do you have a commissary commission that you do in your budget? I don't remember. So, I mean, we would just make it one revenue line, and that way we wouldn't have all these different ones. I mean, we just make sure that the trustee know what line to put it in, and we would just stop from there.
Very good.
So you wouldn't have to develop another line altogether?
No, we would just use one of the ones we're already using. Just
Good
make it
en-
for that one.
Good enough. I'll make that form of motion, and we make it.
I have a motion from Commissioner Alford to consolidate the commissary and the telephone and the two budgets. We have a second from Commissioner Winters. Cassandra, were there any other consolidation requests? Surprised that's the only one. All right, very good. I'll also take that to the full commission as well, Lori. Nah, we're good. Just kidding. I was just checking to make sure you're paying attention, that's all. I forgot. You made the motion, you made the second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Commissioner Slater. I do want to touch back on your comment. McMinn spends $5,000. I'm sorry, Monroe spends it on alcohol. You said. So back to that, because I think that's what you were getting at. Polk basically gives us all their money, right? Via a contract. McMinn spends $5,000, but the drug court should go after some of that money as well. I'm sure they got more than $5,000. That was your original point, is
That's up
that
to the judge.
yeah. So there's a little room for improvement there. All right. I think that's it. Anything else?
I got one other thing.
Please,
If you don't
Commissioner
mind,
Alford.
Chairman. I have Sheriff Austin would like to talk about another grant that he's got, a great one that we want to go forth with eventually.
Yeah, and the mayor knows about it. I think, it was the education grant for inmates that we told you that the state was going to extend.
Yeah, the 20,000 we
So they
started off
have-
with.
So, yeah, where you put 30,000 in
30.
the line, so we could have it for end of December, I'll come before you and you put 30,000 in that line. So we've been awarded the grant through 2024. It is a reimbursement grant. My idea is to, over the years, is to put together a building over there, prefab building, with a classroom for the inmates, as well as welding shops and HVAC repair shops. And I think we've been awarded over the years 600, and I think it's 635,000, and it's through 25. And the idea is to lay out, and generally, we'll have to add some more money, have the lines already been set up for the grant, this grant, and we will have to add money to it. You have $153,000 more in the upcoming fiscal year, or this fiscal year. They go calendar year, so they've extended it out to June, the end of this budget. To the end of this budget, they've awarded us $153,000.
Reimbursement, so we gotta put the
Yes.
money up front.
So,
And then
so if y'all want to put money in that line, to be, I think it's a good idea. I think by the end of 2025, we ought to have a building in place that we can do our training for the inmates there, to bring in instructors and to have, I think we have 12 that are ready to go through the welding program. I think, 10 or 12 that he's doing orientation on, with City Fields. And I think it would be a blessing. The building will be good for City Fields, will be good for the sheriff's office, will be good for the inmates to have it there on location. So that's the long-term goal. The grant actually lays out the plan, getting everything ready, getting the construction ready for it, and having it done, and planning in 23, having the building done by 25. So that's where we're at. And you got 153,000 I add to this year. 24 is 176,000, and 25 270,000, which will cover the cost of everything leading. I think it's free money. It's just having to put the money up front.
All right, Mayor, what, fund is that gonna come out of? General fund or 189?
They just need to do an amendment, increasing revenue in the general fund, the dollars he talked about, and increasing that line that he referred to the same amount. So it'll be a wash as far as your budget, but it'll be increasing it so he can spend it, and then there'll be a revenue line with that amount in it when it comes back in.
All right, so we need an amendment for that.
The amendment really ought to come from Cassandra because it's her department that's doing this, so.
You'll get
All
Yeah.
right,
That's all that matters, because they've got money, the line's been created. I assume the revenue line was created, so you're just gonna amend them both up the
Yep.
same amount.
very good, Sheriff, thank you. Yeah. Anything else coming before the Finance Committee? If not, our next meeting will be January 9th. That's a little bit different than normal. Why did we do that? Yeah.
New Year's on the 2nd.
Yeah, New Year's on the 2nd. We're not gonna do it on the 3rd because everybody's still partying, so we'll go on the 9th. Very good.